The story of this forbidden anime continues with Akizuki spacing out while in a meeting. She can't get over catching Oda and Fujimiya in 4K while having a fierce cultural exchange on the rooftop the other day. Moreover, she is in disbelief that a popular girl like Fujimiya would actually allow a nerd like Oda to get cultural with her. You see, no girl would even pay attention to Oda before. However, his life changed when he got chosen to be one of the lucky few to beta test Hypnos, an app that allows its user to make any girl do whatever he wants. Since Fujimiya often looks down on him, Oda tested the app on her, and it worked. Of course, Akizuki isn't aware of this, and that's why she's baffled by what she discovered. Eventually, since her morally upright brain couldn't handle the culture rising within her, it short-circuits, and cultured blood suddenly bursts out of her nose. Sometime later that day, Oda hangs out with his buddies who are busy talking about their digital waifus again. Although he goes along with them as usual, deep inside his mind, Oda has already accepted that he has started walking a different path than his friends. He can't help but feel superior to them, because while they're busy chasing their digital waifus, Hypnos gives him the power to make girls like Fujimiya his very own real-life waifu. Fujimiya arrives, and as always, she looks down and makes fun of the boys. Of course, Oda is triggered by her arrogant behavior and swears he'll make her pay for it later. Then, Akizuki arrives, which immediately irritates Fujimiya. Before they get into an argument, Akizuki says she wants to talk to both Oda and Fujimiya. It seems she was thinking of confronting them about what happened on the rooftop the other day. However, after recalling what they were doing in 4K, her nose bleeds again because her brain couldn't handle the culture rising within her. Ashamed, Akizuki quickly retreats, leaving the rest confused as to what she wants to talk about. Akizuki then spends most of that day secretly tailing Oda. Well, at least, trying to do that. Despite her best efforts, since her sneak skill is non-existent, Oda easily notices Akizuki, leaving him annoyed. At one point, he considers using the Hypnos on her, but Rina warns him it's too risky because they're in the open. Eventually, Oda confronts Akizuki for following him around. Akizuki then tells him that she saw what he and Fujimiya were doing on the rooftop the other day. Oda is stunned. He can't believe he got caught that quickly. He then wonders how that was possible when Rina was supposed to be there to stop such a thing from happening. What he doesn't know is that when Akizuki arrived that day, Rina was busy dozing off. Of course, Rina realizes it's her fault and acts like she doesn't know anything about it. Cornered and at a loss for what to do, Oda gives up and says he'll tell Akizuki everything. So, Akizuki takes him to her office where they can be alone and talk about what happened. Needless to say, it's a huge mistake for her because no one is around and Oda is now free to use Hypnos. Being the cultured man he is, Oda doesn't hesitate to use the app on Akizuki the moment he sees the opportunity. With a touch of a button, he commands the app to turn Akizuki into a cultural outlet president. Just like that, Akizuki instantly becomes more culturally open-minded, ordering him not to go to someone like Fujimiya. She then exposes her glorious twin personalities to him, leaving Oda stunned. Oda can't believe that even someone like Akizuki, who is strong-willed and strict, is powerless against Hypnos. He also couldn't hold himself back after finally getting a glimpse of her acclaimed glorious twin personalities. He doesn't waste any time at all and gets a good grasp of them so he can get to know them better. Things quickly escalate between the two, with Oda throwing any signs of restraint out the window. Realizing his sword hero is already suffocating, she lets it out so it can have some air. For the first time in her life, Akizuki manages to look a sword hero eye to eye and can't believe how monstrous it is. She finds herself questioning if they're supposed to be that way. However, she gathers her composure and tells herself it's her duty as the cultural outlet president. With her resolve restored, Akizuki goes on to use the forbidden Hakuchua maneuver to calm Oda's raging sword hero. Oda can't believe that Akizuki is actually aware of such a forbidden technique and able to pull it off with such finesse. He believes it is something that he normally wouldn't be able to experience. However, because of hypnos, it's a privilege that only he can enjoy now. As Oda's mind verges on the edge of going blank, Akizuki asks him what he thinks about her Hakuto skills. She confidently tells him they are far superior to what Fujimiya can manage to do. Since Oda doesn't seem to have an answer yet, Akizuki decides to seal the deal by showing him her deep gulp technique. It's a fiercer and more highly advanced version of the Hakuto maneuver, which can only be acquired by reading the ancient scriptures of Sasha Grey. What she doesn't know, though, is that Oda was simply struggling to remember how to speak because of how amazing her Hakuto maneuver is. The moment she uses her deep gulp technique, though, Oda's brain immediately turns to mashed potatoes, making him totally forget the human language. When he regains his composure, Oda realizes that Akizuki is culturally fiercer and more passionate than Fujimiya. He wonders if it's just the effect of hypnos, or if it's actually her true nature. However, he doesn't get to finish that train of thought because he accidentally spills his organic protein shake. Despite letting her drink a hefty amount of protein shake, Akizuki thinks someone like Oda won't be content with just that. So, she shows him her apple pie, just in case he wants to have a hearty afternoon snack too. Once again, Oda is amazed at being faced with something he normally wouldn't have a chance to see. He tries to take the time to marvel at Akizuki's pristine apple pie, but she's already getting impatient. She tells him to stop dilly-dallying around and stand on business already. Oda understands, and since she gave her best to make his sword hero feel better earlier, he says he won't hold back from fully appreciating her apple pie without any restraints. As expected, Akizuki's seal of freshness is still intact, and Oda is once again happy to be the first to appreciate such a freshly baked apple pie. He also can't help but compare it with Fujimiya's. Then, as if she's reading his mind, Akizuki asks Oda if her apple pie is better than Fujimiya's. Of course, Oda isn't able to answer because his mind is slowly melting, and he once again forgot how to speak. However, he quickly regains his senses when he notices hypnosis effects are slowly wearing off Akizuki. Oda quickly panics because he knows it'll all be over for him if the effects of the app are undone. Suddenly, a notification from the app appears, stating that if the target has higher self-esteem, more power is required to maintain the effects. So, like any other good cash grab app, Hypnos tells Oda he needs to spend gems so he can boost its power and ensure he reaches Everest. Oda can't believe what's happening. He can't help but get annoyed that Rina didn't tell him about such an important thing before. However, since he's already dipped his toes in the ocean, he might as well go all out and go scuba diving. When Oda finally spends those gems, the app's effects go tenfold, making Akizuki extremely hungry for more culture. Due to how fierce Akizuki has become, Oda's stamina rapidly goes down. It doesn't take long for Oda to reach the right time for him to release his protein shake. He tells Akizuki about it, and she says he can just deposit it directly into her hydro flask without any worries. So, Oda doesn't hold back and unleashes a torrent of freshly blended protein shakes directly into Akizuki's hydro flask. Akizuki gasps for air while watching Oda's freshly blended protein shake overflow from her hydro flask. However, once she regains her composure, she immediately asks Oda to give her analytics a test too. Oda is in disbelief that someone like Akizuki would be interested in analytics. Since he's not one to pass up on rare opportunities, Oda doesn't hesitate to take Akizuki up on her offer and lets his sword hero test out her analytics. Since it's his first time trying out analytics, Oda gets easily overwhelmed. He feels like his sword hero's brain is melting because of the pressure it's experiencing. He can't help but feel things can easily get out of hand and that he might end up getting addicted to it. Oda also realizes once again how lucky he is to have Hypnos. He knows that without it, he wouldn't even have a chance, even in his dreams, to test out the analytics of someone like Akizuki. He also gets to thinking that even Fujimiya didn't ask him to give analytics a try. He believes that although the app is doing its work, The way Akizuki is behaving is actually what her true nature looks like. Given that it's his first time diving into the world of analytics, it doesn't take long for Oda to lose control and accidentally spill a hefty amount of his protein shake. Oda then watches Akizuki's brain melt as his protein shake overflows uncontrollably from her analytics vault. He can't help but praise his work. He confidently believes that even someone proud like Akizuki will turn out a mess once he uses his forbidden skill. Sometime later, Akizuki is alone in the room and spaced out. However, she suddenly regains her senses. She suddenly remembers she was about to question Oda on what he and Fujimiya did on the rooftop. However, Rina suddenly appears and uses Hypnos to erase her memories. When Oda and Rina meet up later, he blames her for almost getting both of them exposed. As Rina leaves, Oda thinks to himself that he can't trust her at all. Oda thinks that if there's one thing he can trust, it's the Hypnos app. He believes that as long as he has it, he will be unstoppable. He then leaves for home, looking forward to his next cultural adventure with the app. While that happens, Rina is hiding and watching him from afar. She reports to her superior and tells her everything is going according to plan. She then gets ordered to continue with the operation and keep Oda's in-app purchases flowing.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.